I'm not supposed to be here. Well, according to many people, when I started out my music business career, everybody told me, "What are you doing? What is this music stuff? You can't even sing. Why don't you just be normal like everybody else? Go get a job, you know? Go work in a bank. You have a business degree. Go get a real job." But I believed that there was something in the music business that we were about to show the world. Now, as a young man, I always wanted to be in the music industry, whether in front of the microphone or behind. Now, my parents being diplomats, we lived in a few countries around the world. I went into festivals early, you know. I remember volunteering at the Pink Pop Festival in the Netherlands. I would be behind the scenes, mingling with all the stars, the Fugees, Skunk Anansi, Kurt Cobain, R.I.P., and just learning so much about the industry at the time and seeing how it would become a multi-billion-dollar industry in the future. So I fell in love with it. I knew I had to work in this industry. Fast forward, I get into hip-hop. I'm trying to be a rapper like everybody else at that time. But you know, rappers, you need a sad story. You always hear, "I got shot 9 times. My mom was on crack." Tough stories, right? I had none of that. So I was like, how do I get into this rap game? I bump into this famous rap group. I'm trying to show them my skills. They're like, okay, we could roll with you. They make me their hype man. So the hype man is the guy that opens for the rappers. You understand? The rappers are the stars, right? You come in and do all the hyping, and then they open with their songs. Now, this rap group was huge. If I tell you the story, you might put 2 and 2 together. And those who know me would probably trace my roots to that rap group. So we do a few rap concerts in Nairobi. Everything's going well. They're in the spotlight. Everybody loves them. They had hit songs on the radio. They're huge. We get invited to Mombasa. Our first gig out of town. So we're excited, you know. We're like, yeah, Mombasa. We're going to rock Mombasa. We got on the bus. Yeah, we were busing at that time. No flights like these new rappers. So we get to Mombasa. We get to the venue. You know, 1 hour. Nobody's coming to talk to them. 1.5 hours. Nobody's coming to talk to them. That's when I get my courage to walk up to the manager and tell him, "Listen, you invited these guys all the way from Nairobi to Mombasa, and you can't even give them attention." Wow, things changed. All of a sudden, he was like, "Okay, who are you?" Yada, yada, yada. You know, we start talking. He starts organizing their place to stay, where they're going to eat, where they're going to sleep. Finally, he was paying attention to them. You know, when I went back to the rap group, they were like, "Wow, that was courageous. How did you do that?" That's when I knew they were lacking something. They could rap, they could perform, they could make songs, but they didn't understand the art of management. It's one thing to be famous and talented, but people do not understand, and most artists don't understand this. Talent is just 10% of the whole story. That's when the whole creative management process for me began. We get back to Nairobi. They're like, "Man, what you did was really good. You got us respect with the management. Can you please be the one handling all our client communication?" So I was like, remember, I tried to rap. I was trying to be a hype man. But I realized, how am I going to have a rap career if the systems are not there? So as time went by, I found myself doing profiles, writing the stories, putting together their imaging, so that these guys can actually start making money the right way. These guys had no email address. They didn't even have a booking form for clients to be able to call them and actually fill out the booking form. We taught them all that. That's when my career in creative management began. Now, remember, it was early 2000 in Kenya. It's a lot of creativity, but many artists were facing the same thing. They were not getting respected. They were being treated as, losers who just wanted handouts from government and corporations. So what we did is we changed that around. We demanded for respect. We wrote articles. We put together their brands. We actually created the first movement of artists who had now become brands rather than just being people that were given handouts. So if you wanted to book these artists, you had to send in an email, you had to call the manager. There was a lot of pushing back because many clients did not like that. They didn't want that kind of vibe. They wanted to be able to treat them just like, people who wanted handouts. So we demanded contracts. We demanded great communication, respect. It went on and on until Fat Magazine, which was the biggest magazine at the time in East Africa, noticed me and hired me to be one of their reporters. So from there on is where the work really began. We started putting together stories about East Africa, Kenya, Uganda. We wrote about everybody that was, at that time, a real hot musician. And we changed the perception of how corporations, government, and even the consumers looked at the artists. They started respecting the artists, and the artists started respecting their craft and started looking at themselves as a brand rather than just people who were rapping and singing for handouts. As time went by, corporations started noticing us. They started giving us the respect as managers. We went back and forth. We told them that you have to treat these artists with respect. I called them like everything. Before, we would go to concerts, and there's not even a backstage to sit, nothing to drink. From that time on, we started demanding that. They didn't like us, remember, they didn't like us. They called us, why can't we just go straight to the artists? Why do we have to talk to people like you? And we're like, we're the representatives. And also the artists had to understand what creative management meant, or artist management. You've heard so many times, right? That manager stole my money. You've heard that, right? Or, that manager messed up my deal. The problem was, it took time for artists to understand that in order to become a big brand, you needed somebody to be able to negotiate your contracts, go out there, push your brand, make you into a brand that can really become something in the world, rather than just in your little circle. So creative management really is the art of taking a talented person and making them into somebody that can engage in economic activity. It took time. First, letting the artists understand, and also letting government, corporations, and other people that wanted to engage these artists to understand professionally. And it took time. We started going out. We worked with the United Nations. We did one of the biggest projects. If anybody was out here, you remember WAPI? So WAPI was a British Council platform that we engaged with the British Council for them to put money into supporting talent that was upcoming. If you see now in Nairobi, some of the biggest artists that you can name came from this project called WAPI, WAPI, Words and Pictures, which I was managing at the time. We continued. So we used 3 strategies. The first strategy was perception. So perception is where you take an artist from his basic, talent. That's it. He's talented. Yeah, I can sing, I can play guitar. Next, you start giving them a brand. You give them all types of looks so that they can be seen. Number 3, we started building capacity. Capacity really is about taking other creative managers and putting them behind artists so they can work with different artists. So it's a uniform thing. So it's not some artists have managers and some don't. We made it into a uniform industry thing that continued to grow. So over years, many other societies around the world that were very progressive were recognizing the role of art and creativity in their economy. A World Bank report of 2013 reported that the creative economy globally generated 2,250 billion US dollars in that year alone. That's 30 million jobs. That same report here in Kenya said the creative economy generated 3.6 billion US dollars. That's around 10,000 jobs in the creative economy. That's 2013. Imagine how big that number has grown by 2019. With creative management, we've been able to get artists to earn from their ringtones, from advertising, from all types of creativity by just putting special systems around the artist so that he can earn from it. And we still have a lot to do. We still have a long way to go. But I do believe that if we put creative management into schools, into our curriculum, we can change the fate of our artists. Now just imagine our informal sector, Jua Kali, if they were working with young creative managers from school, how much they could take their products into the global economy. There could be another Wangeshi Muntu out there, or Lupita Nyong'o, who needs to earn from their creativity, but all of them end up going overseas because there's not enough systems that we've put together back here at home to help these artists to get to their level internationally. I urge governments, corporations, and anybody out there that can help, let's engage and fund our creative spaces back here at home. There's so many talented artists, so many young artists that are coming out of school, coming out of unemployment, that want to elevate themselves and express themselves, but they can't because there's no systems and there's no investment in these things. We've shown over the last couple of years, what you've known now, the WizKids, Burna Boys, all these artists that you see globally have worked under a systematic level of management in creativity across Africa. Some of the biggest artists that you see in Kenya have come through the fact that they have good managers and a creative management system. Just imagine how many jobs and opportunities we would create for young people if we would allow them to pursue creative management as an active field of study. I know we have a lot of work to do. There's still a lot to be unlocked, but I do believe that if we invest in creative management, we can unlock the potential and we can bring Kenya into the global level as a creative hub. We can do it. I believe that if we all put our hands together, this can happen. There's so many artists out there, they need your help, and we can do it together. We just need to begin now.